And today with us is Ro Khanna, Congressman from the 17th Congressional District in California, encompassing Silicon Valley. And just to keep the Congressman honest, we have three subject matter experts who are going to pose some questions to the Congressman a little bit later in the show.
Congressman Ro Khanna, thank you so much for being with us here this morning. My name is Maria Brink. I'm a leadership consultant and an author of The Leadership We Need. I saved you a copy.
Thank you.
I would like to ask you, with the gap between the human power and our human wisdom growing every day, what is your biggest fear for the future of this country? And how do we stay clear with the clouds ahead?
Well, it's a beautiful question of how we can make sure human wisdom, human empathy, human values are shaping technology, because our human power has increased dramatically and will with AI and machines and the capacity to build things. And if we don't have human-centric decision-making, the risk is that that technology will be used to divide us with algorithms that cause hate, that it can be used to take away people's freedom, and if it's used to incarcerate people, take away their finances, if it's used in banking decisions, take away their life if it's used in medical decisions without human wisdom, or take away their life in military decisions. And that's why I believe that human beings need to be in charge, and we need legislation saying in AI systems we need a human decision making, and that in schooling, yes, I want people to learn AI, but I want them to learn the humanities, to be reading literature and reading philosophy and poetry, and understanding what constitutes a good human life, and making sure that we remember that and learn from that, so that we are applying that to technology.
Yeah. I would like to ask you, what specific values do you feel a leader needs to honor to advance humanity?
All the deep questions.
I know. It's tough. Tough room. It's not Theo Vaughn, but it's tough.
I think at this moment, first is courage. The courage to take viewpoints that your own party may disagree with, that big moneyed interests may disagree with, that you may pay a political price with. Because if you don't have courage, you're never going to be able to change the system. And you're never going to be able to convince people you're going to be willing to take on the status quo. People often say we want strength in our leaders. But strength is not just chest thumping. Nelson Mandela had strength. Dr. King had strength. Gandhi, a petite individual, had strength. Strength comes from a strength of convictions. There have been times in my life where I haven't lived up to courage, but the places where I've shown most courage is when I was a 27-year-old young man and I ran against a 20-term incumbent member of Congress because I was opposed to the war in Iraq and opposed to the Patriot Act in my own party. And I lost badly, but I was standing up for my principles. I did that in trying to stop the Yemen war and led with Bernie Sanders the first war powers resolution to stop it. I did that in speaking out very early on about not funding Netanyahu's war in Gaza when I saw that the civilians that were being killed, despite a lot of powerful groups coming after me. I did that in the Epstein files, knowing that speaking out about that would get me the hate, online hate of a lot of right-wing folks. I'm being attacked these days by Laura Loomer and others because of my advocacy on peace in Gaza and the Epstein files. I've done that in departing from my own party and places on free speech and places on crypto. So I think that conviction and courage is the most important. The second, I think, at this time is humility. We need to understand that the country is divided, that just because someone voted for Donald Trump does not make them a bad person, does not make them intrinsically racist or sexist or homophobic or xenophobic. that people are desperate for folks who are going to treat our fellow citizens with respect, who are going to listen, who are going to listen to why they have a sense of loss, a sense of anger, and listen with a genuine empathy and understanding, and trying to find common ground. So one can hold one's convictions with courage while still having a humility of treating our fellow citizens with respect.
Yeah, speaking of making this world a better place, something we haven't addressed today, and I would like to ask you about, is climate change and the transition to renewable energy. Obviously, President addressed the UN and called it a con job. We know, or estimate right now, that the transition to renewable energy is going to be a global economy of about $23 trillion by 2030. How is the United States of America going to stay relevant in the global economy and transition to renewable energy, considering where we're at?
It's a great question. Well, first of all, anyone who has lived in my state and seen the horrific wildfires knows that climate change is not a con job. Anyone who's seen the awful flooding that we've seen in the Midwest, the storms that we've seen, and hurricanes and tornadoes in the Southeast, these are the impacts of climate change. It's the impact of hotter temperatures and drier conditions that are causing the cataclysmic events that are costing us lives, costing us money. So we are already seeing the impact. It's not just a theoretical impact of something we'll have to deal with 10 years from now. And we're seeing other countries take the lead. China has taken the lead on electric vehicles. And I was just there and saw Xiaomi's electric or factory where they're making phones and electric cars. They've got tons of these factories that are innovating. Our own companies, Ford Motor Company CEO is going there to try to understand how we can be competitive. And what are we doing? We're taking away the electric vehicle tax credits. We're making Mary Barra actually backtrack on our commitment of transition to electric vehicles. We're taking away the solar tax credits that we passed, putting us further behind China when it comes to solar. I mean, we're basically handing solar, electric vehicles, and the battery technology to China, as opposed to saying we want to be leading the economy. It would be as if we were in an oil economy and I said, you know what, the United States shouldn't develop oil, let's just have the Middle East develop it. And we did that for a while and we suffered enormous consequences. Now the United States is a great country capable of catching up, but every day Trump is putting us at a bigger and bigger disadvantage in building the type of energy and the type of products that the world is going to want as the future. And this is really hurting America's economic preeminence.
I wanted to give you an opportunity to share a message that you would like to get across to the American people, the people of Boulder, the people of Colorado, the people of the United States, and the people of the world. What message would you like to share?
Well, one, thank you for being engaged. A lot of people say, I just am so disheartened. I'm so depressed with what's going on. I'm going to disengage. And so if they've listened this far, they're obviously very engaged in the world. And this is the time that people need activism the most, is the times when it's hard. You don't need political engagement when it's easy as much. You need it when things are difficult. This is the time to double down on being involved. It does make a difference. We see it in the small things like Jimmy Kimmel being reinstated. We see it in bigger things like stopping the worst violations of human rights, of deportation. We see it in the Democrats now, big thanks to the activism, having more spine and being willing to stand up to Donald Trump. But I believe that when you look at the history of this country, progress has never been easy. In some cases, it's required a brutal civil war, 600,000 dead. In other cases, it's required people being beaten and jailed in Jim Crow. But the country has an enormous capacity for self-correction, for overcoming our more parochial sentiments, and for becoming a broader and more inclusive democracy. When I often say America is making progress in spite of ourselves, some people say, are so disheartened that Kamala Harris, an African-American, Indian-American woman, lost the presidency, and I was too. But then I thought, wow, she got 48% in Pennsylvania. And when I was growing up in the 1980s, even though I had a wonderful childhood, if you had told me that an African-American woman an Indian American woman would get 48% and be the Democratic nominee, I would have thought you were crazy. We have a new generation that is coming in this country. It is a place where we have people from across the world. We're trying to do something no nation has ever done. Of course, it's going to be difficult, but I believe if we engage, we will build a cohesive multiracial democracy and make our mark on history.
Profound words from the Congressman. I want to thank you for taking the time to come to Boulder. We very much appreciate it. We very much appreciate all that you do for the country and your service. I want to thank Mike Shanley, Maria Brink, and Doug Gardner, as well as our crew, Dustin, Sina, Stephanie, Artem, and Will. Thank you for doing this. You know, the Highland Institute for the Advancement of Humanity is built on the idea that we can foster and catalyze ideas that deepens awareness and results in concrete, actionable, positive outcomes. And that's what we're trying to do here. Thank you for taking the time. This has been episode 1, and we will be back. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.